out that there was this situation that needed to be looked at. Akasanoma organized a number of sessions from different perspectives. Today's session is a follow-up to what we did previously. We have invited two of our kind, that is Ghanaians like us, who are professionals in their own sphere of studies. They are going to take us through two presentations, and thereafter we will split the group into two and look at the problem from the angle of the parents and then that of the youth themselves. What are the factors that we need to look at in terms of finding lasting solutions to the problems that confront us as a community. Before the presenters take us through what they have for us, I think we would like the chairman of Akasanoma to give us a short welcome statement, and thereafter Mrs. I think this time I need to use the right title, Mrs. Phyllis Doe. Maybe we continue to call you Phyllis Doe. Some might not know it's actually Mrs. Phyllis Doe will be the first speaker. And then Mr. Akwesi Osei will follow immediately after Phyllis finishes. So I will invite Mr. Siao, the chairman of Akasanoma, to give us a short statement, opening statement, and then we have the speakers come on straight away. Please, can you? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Good evening, and once again, welcome to another edition of Akasanoma workshop. Just as Mr. Lantis said, this is the first this year, but in the last couple of years, Akasanoma Foundation, we have shifted from what we used to do in the past to organizing this kind of information session and workshops to be able to interact with you, learn from you, discuss, and then get to the core of issues. And then with that, we put up our reports and recommendations to the STARSDIL, and they take those things into consideration in making future policies. So actually, we are still serving you as we used to do in the days of right to this day, because things are changing, so we also have to shift and then also adjust to the time. So we are really honored to have you here, your support, your inputs and your contributions as well. Our radio crew, they are also here, and their presence is really fun because they announce, give the publicity, and they are also here to, of course, support. So without wasting much time, I would say we appreciate your coming here, and we believe your contribution and comments will also be taken into consideration and going to benefit all of us, because we are here to talk about positive parenting. We are all parents or future parents, and the family, of course, is the core of the society. So it's very important to start from the basis and then be able to build it up from there to avoid more problems in the future. So I believe what we are going to do here this evening is a very important job, and it's going to be an excellent one. Thank you once again, and have a fine evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, thanks for coming. I'm going to give a short presentation about positive parenting, or from the parents' point of view, or things that the parents might recognize. And after that, after Akwesi also give his presentation, we'll have a workshop, and that is interactive. So this one's like a monologue or something, but then you know what's going on. The perspective from the parents, as parents, people who are parenting here now, but grew up in our homeland in Ghana, they are facing a lot of challenges, because there are various things that makes it extra challenging. Of course, parenting is not easy, even if you're in your own country, but are here as parents, grown up elsewhere, but wanting to survive here, that makes it very challenging, extra challenging for us because of various aspects. If you think about the social baggage of the parents, pressure from the family back home to bring this or bring that, to do this or do that, all those things, even if you say you don't care or you won't mind them, it still plays a part in your head. So it is a kind of pressure. We also have, well, I call it pray for me pastors. Sometimes I do hear lots of children complaining. They complain about, well, my parents don't have enough money for me to buy this or to buy that. But I see them always sending money or giving the pastor money for them to get some prayers. And the children, there's a lot of misunderstanding there from the children, or the children feel that they don't come first. They are not your priority. And also the social economic status of lots of parents here, Ghanaians, makes it very challenging to bring up their children maybe the way that they would like to do it. So those things makes it extra challenging for us. But there are also things within ourselves, not only the surrounding, but things that like inadequate self-development of ourselves, like the language barrier. Lots of us still find it very difficult to speak the Dutch language or to understand it properly because they were already grown up before they came here. So that makes it extra challenging for us, and also in communicating with the outside world, but also with your child within your own house. Sometimes it's difficult because you don't understand each other as well as you would if you both speak the same language very well. But lots of us also lack some Western skills. Of course, we all have some certain skills that we have developed already from back home or wherever you grow up. Everybody learns certain skills, surviving skills. But that varies also from country to country. Things that maybe in Ghana we find it respectful or we find it good to know or good to do might not be the same here. But we don't know. Some of us don't know. What are the skills that you need to know? For instance, I hear a lot of people say, well, African countries are corrupt, like Ghanaians, we are corrupt, this or that in Ghana. But actually, when they explain it a bit more, then I see similar things in the Dutch society. But we don't call that corruption, they call it network or lobbying. It's a different name because it looks different. So there are lots of things that, lots of Western skills that we don't know, so we haven't developed yet. And if we don't know it and we haven't developed it, we can't also teach our children, we can't pass that one on. So I think that's also very interesting, but also important for us to know. And the academic qualifications, some of the Ghanaian parents lack the academic qualifications, but there are some expectations, sometimes not very realistic, that the children must do it. And it's very frustrating for lots of children if you know this is expected from you, but you have nobody to help you get there. That your parents might be here, they're expecting you to get there, but they don't tell you how to get there because they don't know. So that's also very difficult, and it's also important for the parents to acknowledge those problems. Well, there are also a lot of things that makes it very difficult. The unpleasant home situation due to various domestic issues. Sometimes it's difficult for me as a Ghanaian to say it out loud because in many migrant, not only the Ghanaians, but in many migrant homes, if something nasty or bad happens, for instance, on the news, then they say, oh, only the white people. We don't have that type of problems. For the Moroccans, the Turkish, the Ghanaians, the Surinamese, strange, really strange things, they always say it's only for the white people or the Dutch people. But But we do have some problems, only we deal with it in a different way. Some of the problems that we also have, just like the white people, that maybe we have it even more or more concentrated: domestic violence, poverty, multiple jobs, and stress, and unstable homes. Sometimes, because of our social economic status, we do need to work maybe a little bit more than the other person, maybe the white person. Sometimes we have 2 or 3 jobs, but that doesn't mean we have 2 or 3 times the salary. So we work very, very hard, and we don't necessarily get the results that we would like. And we need lots of money because we do have lots of responsibilities. All these things adding up makes it extra challenging. And also lack of knowledge of the system. The system here in everything, almost in everything, is different. In education, medical health. You can't imagine, you just name it, in communication. Like even your attitude, your non-verbal way of communication, that is worldwide, should be the same, but still it can mean different things. So it can bring you some problems you're not prepared for. And because we don't know exactly how the system here works, or some of us don't know that, it can also prevent us to ask for help early in the process, early in the time that the problem starts. Because of that, we wait way too long before we ask for help. And the time we ask for help, we are beyond the shame, and then we must ask for help. It's way too late. Because first comes the shame, and then you get past that. You can tell maybe your brother, your sister, and then still you want to keep it within yourself, maybe your church, but still you want to solve things yourself. But some problems need more help than a brother, sister, or a church member. Sometimes you really need professional help, and we need to do that earlier. And this one, the last one, is for me the most important one. I would like everybody to be more aware of that, because everything that I said before, I think most of you already know that. That's what I think. But this one, most people, we do know it, but we know it subconsciously. Our state of mind is what I believe the most important thing that is holding us back to do what we want to do, or to achieve the aims that we have in our heads. Because our state of mind, how I see it, is always surviving. We are always surviving. And we are, like my mother would say, one leg is in Netherlands and one leg is in Ghana. We are always balancing. We don't choose. And I think we must choose, we must make a choice in what we want to do. And making that choice, I learned this from one of my teachers. She's a very important person to me. She's a Surinamese woman, but she looks white. So you can imagine the conflict that she gets, or interesting conversations that she gets, because how she looks doesn't meet her ethnical background. She told me, and that changed my whole life. She told me the first step you have to make into getting higher professionally and higher emotionally is to tell yourself, I'm here to stay. Took me 3 years to understand what she meant, but now I understand it. I'm here to stay. That is what I would like us Ghanaians also to be aware of, and to tell ourselves, we are here to stay. And if you are here to stay, what do you need to do to make your stay as pleasant as possible for yourself and for your children? Then you don't need to survive anymore. If you're not here to stay, because your state of mind is not going to make some money, work hard, and go back home, then everything that influences everything that you do. So every decision that you make for yourself or for your family has that one. That one is always in your mind. The influence is too big if you don't tell yourself, I'm here to stay. That's the first step I think we need to do. But if you say we are here to stay, then you'll be aware of what you're doing. And then you can make I think better choices for yourself. And one choice is better for person A, but for the other person, another choice is better. But then you have the power to decide how you want to live your life, because you have the mental state of staying. You're no longer surviving, you're going to make your life, you're going to live your life. And if you make that choice and you are aware, that means that people say about choices, they have a very nice saying, I think, kiezen is verliezen. That means, I'm trying to translate it well, choosing is losing. So if you choose something, it means you can't have the other. It's one or the other. And I think that is one of our biggest problems, because we don't want to choose. We want both worlds. But that is a step too fast. We first need to choose, and then if we comprehend both worlds, then you can have both worlds. But you can't have it at the beginning. That's how I think. And if you do make a choice, you need to accept the consequences. You can't have it all. You need to make a choice, make a decision, make a choice, and accept the consequences. That means you have to set goals for yourself, and also goals as a parent. Because sometimes we do mix things together as parents, and we ask lots of the children that they can't meet. That's what I always say, be a realistic parent. Always be realistic. That's what I'm asking my child. Is it realistic? Can I ask my child to do this and that? And sometimes we Ghanaians, I know, like my mother always tell me, I set the bar high because then I know you will meet it. But if I set it low, then you also be lazy and then you won't meet it. And I think it's a good point, a good starting point, but you must also, there is a difference between high and too high. You must also think about what is really possible for my child to do, and how can I help my child to meet the goals that I set for him or for her. So I think all this together, if we can tackle this and think about it in the workshops, how can we make decisions, how can we make a choice for ourselves to influence our children, our family in the better, so that they will have a better future than we have, because actually that is all parents, our goal. Our children must have a better life than we have. No matter how good your life is, you always want better for your children. And I think this is the place to start. Okay, thank you very much for that attention.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. That's a very insightful word on positive parenting. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions in the group, and I just want you to know that at the end of the two speakers that we'll have today, we'll be having a workshop, and Phyllis will be heading one of the workshops. So if you have any question or comment, and I can imagine that there may be points that you may find it difficult to agree with them, like I'm here to stay. I think that's going to be a power struggle tonight. Are we really here to stay, particularly those of you that are above 40? And I think those of you that are maybe our parents, have been parents for a long time, and you're already making plans to leave, and you are believing that you have done enough to have that permission to go. And I think I'm here to stay. It's the first time I'm actually hearing a statement explicit in our community. Many people give hints. Maybe we should stay. Maybe we should think about it in case we cannot go home. Maybe we should consider, like this Vietnamese, but we have really put it forward. I'm here to stay. So I hope before we leave here, we will have concluded those who are staying, those who are listening, and now it will affect our parenting. I just also want to say that, actually, let me apologize for being a little bit late. I don't want us to think. Yes, that's what I'm going to get to. That's what happens when you are late. You forget to introduce yourself. But that's okay. My name is Prince Edufu, and I'll be moderating this workshop. Like I said earlier, we'll be having, after our two speakers, there will be a two workshop, and I'll not be heading them, but the two speakers will be heading the workshop so that you have a chance to interact with them. Because I believe what they have shared, they have given you, sensitive and powerful information and tools. And some of you may ask, how do we use these things that you have told us, or these things that you have shared with us? How can we really prove it? Has it been proven? Has people really exercised it, and what has been the result? So that's something that we are going to do after the two speakers. But to continue with my little introduction, my name is Prince Edufu. I recently graduated as a law student. It's everywhere I go, I want to announce it. Because it's very easy to do. And my parents, of course, are very proud. And I think they've used some of these powerful parenting tools, like she was saying, the standard. They always let me know what they're expecting for me to achieve. And they say, we want you to be master in this, master in that, so that I can achieve this, man, I cannot. So I think, it's something that I recognize a few in my own life. So I think it's a very, very powerful tool that we have received. So like I was saying, my name is President Noedifu. I'm just a graduate I just graduated in the field of law, corporate law. So if in case you are interested in corporate law, please, this is my letter there to exceed me. But without much ado, I'd like to introduce the second speaker for today. And then after the second speaker, like I said, we'll enter into the workshop session. He's a researcher in migration and ethnic studies. And I think this is important because that's who we are. And sometimes we want to push that identity aside, but you can't. We are immigrations, we are immigrants over here, and there's, like she was saying, that we have to know the system in which we are. But at the same time, also, as we are learning the system, we also have to know our roots, because that also helps us in our parenting. So I believe this researcher is going to shed some light about our own community and some of the things that are happening in our community. So I'd like to call upon Akwesi Ose. Cheryl, please applaud this.
Thank you very much, Bernice, and thank you. I'd like to thank the organizers for this presentation. I'll be looking at some of the challenges young people have dealing with being Ghanaians and also being Dutch, because we are expected to sort of meet both cultural norms, but sometimes it's very challenging. And I would like to say I interviewed a couple of Ghanaians, just about 5 people, so it's not something you can generalize for a research perspective, but I think it holds a lot of ideas that we can actually learn from as parenting as a young person, myself. So this is basically the outline of my presentation. I'll start with looking at Ghanaians in the Netherlands. I look at the second generation migrants, which are the young people we are talking about today. We also look at the socioeconomic challenges of second generation migrants. Then we look at the normative reality of second generation migrants, and then and some of the views of second generation migrants based on the interview that I had. But I'll start on some pop quiz. How much do you know about the Ghanaian community here? So let's start maybe just two people to answer. The first question, how many Ghanaians do you think live in the Netherlands? Yeah, how many Ghanaians do you think live in the Netherlands?
30,000.
30,000, anyone?
Less than that.
Well, it depends on registered.
Registered.
Well, registered and documented.
Okay.
25.
Okay. Well, the answers will come later. But the second question, which cities have the most Ghanaians in the Netherlands?
Amsterdam.
So you have Amsterdam, what else?
Den Haag.
Yeah.
Rotterdam. Oh no, Rotterdam, yeah.
Almere. Is Amsterdam of
Utrecht?
So you're saying Amsterdam, where the majority of Ghanaians are there. Any more guesses?
Dordrecht.
But the Randstad, which is Utrecht, Amsterdam, Den Haag, Rotterdam, that circle.
Okay. And then, so in Amsterdam, which locality do you think the most Ghanaians are concentrated? So, according to the Central Bureau of Statistics, there are about 22,000.
Wow.
Again, that's 2013 statistics living here. And when you look at the second generation migrant, they form about 8,000, later about 8,000 here. And the question two here, we have Amsterdam, The Hague, and Rotterdam. Those are where the most Ghanaians are concentrated, and also we have Utrecht and Eindhoven. But Ghanaians are everywhere in the Netherlands. I went to Norway, I saw something. And then, according to statistics, half of us live in the Netherlands, and as you rightly said, we are here in Zaros, our own continent. And in the Zaros, we are actually the second largest group after the Dutch and Suriname. So we are very recognizable group here. A lot here. So if you are more interested in numbers, you can visit the number of Ghanaians and males, females, second generation, third generation. So that's it, female, male. So
No, that's not fair.
Second generation, yeah. You see the generation difference. I was looking at second.
That's second generation, so the two combined.
Why migration? Because of the organization of migration, which means women are not traveling. So we have a lot of women here.
Even back home in Ghana, they are more than the men, so it's not a problem.
And you are more than
And it's also because the men are bringing more women.
That's very interesting to know. So I'd like to say that when you look at the second generation migrants here, the Ghanaians who were born here and have their parents from Ghana, basically look at the second generation. There are lots of diversities because of their various ethnic background, ethnicity, but then they share something very common. And one thing they share is what they call the bicultural. That means they share two normative values, cultural values, being Dutch and also being Ghanaian. And I'd like to state here that being bicultural is not necessarily problematic, because then I've actually had interaction with people, and maybe Prince, you could also tell us more about it, who are able to switch from being Ghanaian to being Dutch, depending on the context. So it's not something that is very problematic in its own. And also, but then also you agree that when it comes to general cultures have certain similar things when it comes to how kids are supposed to be brought up, especially respecting the elderly, respecting your parents. It's not just related to Ghanaian culture. The Dutch culture also sort of enforces that. However, there are certain situations you cannot just switch from being Ghanaian to being Dutch, and you think it's addressed. And here I would like to ask can you give us an example of some of the situation being a Ghanaian? You can just not switch from being a Ghanaian to Dutch, and you think everything will be solved. One example.
Well, I mean, greeting people in a group. Well, in Ghanaians, we greet, from the right to the left, and the Dutch mostly greet the other way around. And I mean, it doesn't, matter. Or, giving something to someone, it is not done in Ghana to use your left hand, but in the Dutch culture, you can use any hand which is, appropriate for you at that time.
Yeah, okay. That's a good example. But then as a young person, one of the examples that we often cite is which may not be when it comes to Ghanaian culture and Dutch culture are not compatible, it's marrying for love. Most parents would want their children to marry Ghanaian, especially in the community, but then as young people we want to marry for love, so sometimes you cannot addressing one of going to one culture normative value will be trouble for the other. Yeah, so why you had the problem?
No, because I've heard about examples of Ghanaian boys who came home with their maybe Iranese girlfriend. The mom panicked because
So, and as I mentioned, incompatible expectations of parents cannot just be addressed by switching, because doing so will mean one norm will suffer. And then, but I would like to also ask here, what do you think are some of the culturally based conflicts? I asked the young people these same questions. but maybe as because I being parents and our parents to be, what do you think are some of the challenges when it comes to young people having to deal with two cultures, two identities? Because it's not just about the norms, it's also about identity.
Well, in my estimation, I will just narrow it down to discipline. I mean, traditionally, in our Ghanaian setup, when you talk about the right of the child, I don't want to use the word adults infringe upon the rights of the children, but they always want to discipline their children in such a situation that children don't have to indulge in adult conversation. Besides, when a child is found playing truant somewhere, you don't need to be the biological parents. You can just get on the child and discipline the child. Whereas in Europe or here, you cannot touch somebody's child unnecessarily. So when you talk about discipline, there are a barrier from Ghana and Netherlands.
Any
Well, in the Ghanaian setup, your parents decide what the family does and what happens in the house, and you just have to accept it. And in that setup, the parents, can suggest, and the children, have also to bring in their input or disagree, and even decide to opt out.
Has language got anything to do with that? The question you asked.
language.
Yeah.
Language does not have a factor because, for instance, when you go home, when I was actually very interested, when I spoke to some of the young people, they actually told me, well, when I speak Dutch, they tell me, why are you the only Dutch person? The parents tell them like, they share me in one out in Dutch. That's what they say. So it was also another issue. So now, and also one question I put to the young people, like, what do you people in the community, especially South, what do they think about the young generation here? Well, there are a lot of good things they say, but some of the things they also say, they think, oh, we had this. So they told me in one day that we exhibited deviant behaviors. We are not interested in higher education. We just stop school or drop out of school at a very low stage. We engage in inappropriate sexual conduct, and we love money, so we want to just get rich quick without really suffering. So these are some of the things they think, parents or the community as a whole, that's how they think about them.
About the youth?
That's how the youth think, parents think about it, or the community as a whole. Yeah. And as I said, I just interviewed a couple of people, so this is not something you can generalize because just 5 people at the research level, it's not something you can generalize. But I thought it was very interesting how young people think, the society see them. We, as Felix mentioned, family, and as some of you all, the family plays a very, very important role when it comes to bringing up young people here. And the family and the environment actually. And a lot of us, she also mentioned, a lot of our parents came here when they were maybe 15 years and above. So they had already gone through that development stage, the formative stage in Ghana, and we are well sort of grounded in the Ghanaian culture. So it's sort of part of them, it's become part of them. But then, they move here and they are introduced to a new Dutch culture, but because they have a background, they are well grounded in the Ghanaian culture, they were brought up there. Sometimes it's very difficult for them to adjust or integrate into the new society they find themselves. And also because of the idea that we are here and we just must stay, we will just go back someday. They don't really concentrate on integrating themselves or assimilating to the Dutch society. So they keep that Ghanaian normative values and at the expense of integrating into the Dutch society. So in this case, they live here, they live in the country, but they are not of the country, they are not part of the country. So whatever happens, for them they think, oh, you're just passing through, you just say, come on, and go back. But then, through my research, I also discovered that a lot of them do not even go. They end up staying here. They go for a couple of months, then they just come back because they stay here too long, and like adjusting or reintegrating back into even their own society is very difficult because things are so difficult for them. So they come back and they don't go. But then,
my brother, when you're talking about parental normative frame based on Ghanaian cultural heritage.
Yeah.
Not long ago, the churches in Ghana, the Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Anglican, were advocating the return of, the schools back to the churches. It seems of late, discipline or upbringing of children is going to the doors. Whereas in the 30s, 40s, when the churches were in charge of the schools, there was discipline, children's respect. I was looking at this issue at home and I realized that of late it's becoming something unbearable. And I just came to the point that biblically one can deduce that the Bible says, getting to the end of time, children will be respectful to their parents. And if you will agree with me, I don't know whether I know.
We'll just maybe during the workshop, we have the opportunity to discuss some of these issues during the workshop. So, and also when you look at the community, when you look at our community, because we are very much concentrated here, we sort of develop our own subculture, and you can't really sometimes, for a person who is coming here, like Zaros for the first time, sometimes you can't really tell the difference between being back home in Ghana and being here because everybody speaks, most people speak the Twi, and on the street you hear people. So, and we have developed our own subculture which includes the usage of our language. So, it's so difficult for young people to even in the Southwest, like the Burma area, to really adopt the Dutch culture because of the subculture we have developed here for ourselves. So it's also a challenge according to young person for them to face into those societies. When they leave outside, they go outside the Burma area. Then I also asked them about some of the conflicts, times where they have conflict with parents, or some of the causes of the conflict with parents, and and we all know that children go through various stages in development. Usually, these are the basic stages. And I know when it comes to the school age, I think here in Holland it's about 3 years. That's when they start school, right? 4 years. So, but then those from let's say age 0 to 12 years, it's sort of easy for parents to handle them. But then when they reach their adolescent or teenage age, that's where the trouble comes. And it's because, one, at this stage, they get more exposure to the outside world. And for somebody who has already been told, like always been told what's spoken to from the Ghanaian perspective, or told what is right or what is not right, he goes out for the first time, and then he or she is exposed to a whole different kind of norms. So he begins to question what the parents told him. So like, oh, my mother said this, but then this society is saying this different, and also they have exposure to the media, to school, peers from different, backgrounds, sometimes some children. So they begin to question everything that they already know, and when they question all these things at home, you come home and you tell them to do something else, and then their attitude changes because then they just won't do it without asking questions, and that is where trouble comes in here. Because then, I'm your father, do what I say, but then it doesn't work that way. He or she has been exposed to a whole different thing, and because also some of our parents do not really take the time to integrate or assimilate into the society. They don't really understand what goes out there. So there are times you can tell a child to do something and explain why he or she should do it, and he will just do it because he has a reason to explain why this is good and this is not good, but then we don't do it. Yeah.
Sometimes also, I think it's also difficult for some children to listen and understand and follow the rules of the parents, because sometimes the children know better. So how can you tell me to do something if I know you better than you do?
Actually, we have something we call dissonant acculturation. That's a situation where a child learns to dash faster than the parent. So he or she knows everything, and we the parent don't know anything. And in such a situation, it can cause a lot of trouble. You know, because then one, he questions everything, and then when he goes outside and faces some sort of, let's say, challenges, discrimination, everything, because you, the parent, don't have the background to really help the child, then the child just comes down, like we call something downward aspiration. It affects the child development. Yeah.
I think I have a little conflict within myself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the meaning of culture as in terms of what the Ghanaian culture is and what the Dutch culture is, because I think we're mixing two things. There are traditions known to the Dutch, meaning things that Dutch people do,
Yeah.
which per se is not their culture. But then, if you don't clarify that very well for some of us,
Culture
will be confused.
Yeah, it's simply defined like the way of body. I think that's everything in language.
Therefore, what is their tradition then? What is the Dutch tradition of doing things?
That is one thing we really discuss in migration. What is there something called Dutch tradition?
We have the Ghanaian tradition, as we all
We
say.
do have the Ghanaian tradition. That's why I also use norms. Yeah, because norms are basically like more than rules that is acceptable to that culture, that society. And also, yeah, we have Ghanaian norms, like laws and rules that we accept as Ghanaians, also that everybody accepts.
But it's very different.
Is that we have different?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because in Ghana, you know, we have different tribes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you break it down again, and then it comes different ways of doing things for our tribe.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you continue. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
I think it's referring to the common ones.
I thought so too. Okay.
So as I mentioned, when they're exposed to the mainstream Dutch culture, they begin to question everything. Their parents are already doing, and also they have challenge in terms of what's like. There's always conflict when it comes to what, as Ghanaians, we see to be morally right, and what Dutch people or Dutch society sees to be immoral or moral right. For instance, there's also an example we cite where you see two young persons just kissing in public. For us, it's unthinkable.
It's abomination.
We live in a whole different environment. So you see your child like, hey, just shout at a child and everything. For him or her, like, there's nothing wrong with it. We grew up here. Kids spend more time outside than spending time home, and especially with our parents working 2 jobs and other thing. It's always you don't have time for that. So yeah. So you telling like, you should not kiss in public and then society, everything like in the media, from friends in school, they do it and nothing wrong. So there's always that tension too when it comes to young people. And through my conversation with them, they told me a lot of troubles they have with their parents has to do with like their parents trying to force them to accept cultural like Ghanaian norms, like what we think is right, and they knowing something different. So there was always that kind of tension and conflict. And actually, that's why I don't know if you've noticed that a lot of young people, as soon as they turn the age of the majority or even start working early, then they just leave home. They rent their house because they think they are renting, they have money and they want to be free because they don't want to be tied up in this Ghanaian, normative values because they want to be free. And some of the questions. And I also mentioned the dissonance culture where a child becomes more Dutch than even the parent, they know everything. So you don't even have a right to tell them what to do because what do you know? And I won't be surprised to go to some homes and for parents having a conversation, argument with children, and the children will just tell them, what do you know? You know, I think it's happens here. So they will ask what you know because you don't know anything. Well, maybe in the court you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Anything that you know, like 1 year, they understand the language, it's with the language. So before you don't use the language, you don't even know anything that's happening. So there are more, but I was just giving 15 minutes. I think I'll just So in the workshops, I'll talk more about it based on some of the findings and some of the things I do. So this is where I'll end for more discussion during the workshop stage. Thank you.
That's a very interesting perspective on looking at parenting, particularly if you look at from the child's perspective and the various ages. The various stages of the child's upbringing. And I think one of the conflicts that you're saying that when a child gets to 13 to 18, that's when they also begin to talk back, begins to react. And I think most of the time you can win ground from from 0 to 12. So I think that's something interesting to consider at the workshop, that particularly if you know someone is a young parent, that train your child well, because from 13 going, expect that there will be more interaction than a monotone, so to speak. I just want to make clear some of the ground rules of the workshop, because we'll be entering into the workshop from here. What we are going to do is that we are going to separate ourselves into two groups. The group of Felix will be here, and Apisi will be at the next door. This is what they are going to talk about. Felix is going to talk about some of the disadvantages that you have as parents, because you are living in a system that was actually not designed specifically for you as immigrant, but you are in it. And there are certain things that are expected from you, from the system itself. The authorities are expected that you bring your children up to a certain standard. And if you don't meet that standard, then you can get into trouble. And I think some of you will talk out of experience. I remember an example of a mother who was querying because on Thursdays, she takes her child to prayer meetings, and sometimes all nights. And so in the morning, the child will go to class and the child will begin to sleep. So he says, yeah, but I'm doing it for the spiritual growth of my child. To develop my child's spirituality. But the system does not allow you to go that far or doing weekdays. And so you can see that although the intentions were good, but because you are living in a system you never studied, you never understood, you are applying it the wrong way. So these are some of the things you need to understand, which environment you are in and how you can raise your child so that you do not have problems with the authority, because a lot of people complain about school teachers. The system is stealing our children from us, the system is spoiling our children, and the system has become some evil beast that is hanging over our heads. So Phyllis will be talking about what the system is, what are expected of us, and how we as parents can know the system and work with it. So if that is your main interest, you can stay in this very room, and then you'll have a workshop, and you'll get also the chance to share your experience and to ask more specific questions on this topic. First, I will still be talking about from the child perspective, because like he told us, there are a lot of children that they know the language very well. As more of fact, you'll be honest that some of these children have been reading your letters from you from the age of 12. And so they know how much you are owing. They know where you are paying. They know you more than you know yourself. Internet banking, they know everything you do in your money. They saw where you went, where you spent that 100 euros. They can see it. I'm not saying stop them from using internet banking. No. But just for you to know that the children are really developing faster than you can ever imagine. They speak the language, you'll be honest, better than you. Amen. That's right. I've been saying another one of my personalities. After being a master, I'm not also for. I'm just not bring confusion. But anyway, it's very important that you are aware that the children speak the language better. They are also more integrated in the society, because like Akusi was saying, most of us are, we have our own subculture, but these children are exposed to the Dutch community, so they know what is going on outside even more than maybe the parents. They maybe watch the Dutch news more than the parents. I know you all know Peace FM, Omane FM, and that's what FM. But children know those FM. They watch New Journal, ratio now, so they know what is happening in society sometimes more than the parent. So as a parent, if you touch your children, you are at a disadvantage. Which in Ghana, you could say, I was born in 1963, you were born in 1990, what do you know? But today you can't say that because the child will tell you what he or she knows, and your mouth will, I didn't know you know all this. Because they know internet banking, they know Facebook, they can get the latest. If you use a word that they don't know, they can go to Google, type it in and find out the word. So children's development have really changed, and as a parent, you need to also be updated so that you can give your children the best parenting. Akwesi will be dealing on that. So if that is your main interest, then you just join him at the room next door. And I think that is all. We'll just take a short break for 5 minutes. Nobody should go outside just to sort ourselves out. So I'd like to thank you for giving us your attention, and I believe you are going to have a great workshop. I also want to say that because we are sponsored by South East, we also have to register everyone who is here to make sure that this project may continue. I see a question.
There's a question here. Yeah. Somebody's asking, what about somebody's interested in both? Can they switch?
Because of the time. Because of the time, what you can do, well, I think at the end of it, we'll give a summary of what was discussed, so that at least you don't miss everything. So that's because of the time, you cannot have the two workshops for one group and the other group. So I think what you can do is that what is your main interest, you are there, and then there's the one that you missed out. At the end, we'll give a summary, and we'll do our best to bring out a report so that at least you're also aware of what was discussed in the other workshop. Yeah. I think that's the best that we can do. Choose. Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I believe we all had a good workshop, and I could hear a lot of discussions, a lot of laughter, mixed emotions, which is good, a little bit anger, a little bit sometimes frustration, a bit challenging, which shows that there's a lot that was discussed. That was what this platform was for. So what we are going to allow is that you were able to sit only at one workshop, and you are surely interested in what happened at the other workshop. You cannot have the full information or things that were discussed there, but at least those that led the workshop are going to give us a short summary of what was discussed and some of the things that they believe that each one of us needs to know as we leave this group. So I'd like to call upon Phyllis to give us a first, the summary on your part of the workshop. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Actually, we discussed what is important about positive parenting. So we discussed the basic elements about setting goals for your children, setting basic rules for your children at the moment that everything is at peace. When there's peace at home, that's the right moment to set rules. Everybody, to let everybody know the rules, to follow them. Rules are made to be broken, as one of the gentlemen told me. So it's possible that your children will break your rules. And what is then important for us to get your child back. When your child already has gone wrong, you need to get your child back. And we came to the conclusion also that it's okay, people do make mistakes. If someone makes a mistake, if your child made a mistake, or if yourself, if you make a mistake, you can always go back and make it right, and set it right. It doesn't matter what happens, you can always set it right. And how to set it right, how to get close to your child when maybe he's doing some criminal activities or juvenile things that that you don't want him or her to do, is to go back into the communication. Go back to when everything was right between you and your child. The things that you share together. What made you close? What is your bond? That is the way to get back close to your child, to win your child back to your basic rules, how you want it to be. Another thing that we had some recommendations for maybe the people at home or other parents who find it difficult to ask help or to get to know the system, because we had the conclusion that we don't know the system well enough to help our children the way we want to help them or to raise them in the society that we live in now. We need to know the system so that we can use it to our own benefits to better the life of our children. What we concluded one of the things is we need to learn to ask for help. If you don't know anything or you don't know something, there's always a person who knows. And you know the person that knows. So ask for help. Don't be too afraid or shameful or whatever. Or you can be ashamed but still ask for help. Another thing is that we talk a lot about the positive consequence, the positive things. That, for instance, if you practice positive parenting, you get a child that does this and that and that and that. But we don't lay enough emphasis on the negative side. If you don't invest in your child, you don't give positive parenting, then you also get negative reactions from the child. That someone said some children, if they reach the mature age to move out of the house, they have their jobs, they don't even return back to their parents, because that is what is lacking in the communication, but also in the bonding between the parents and the children. So we need to invest on that and show the consequence on both sides, positive and negative, and more direct communication with the children, more direct, and also an open attitude to other people who can show you the system better so that you can use it and help raise your children in a better manner. And also make use of not only the people you know, but also the institutions that are there. We do have Ghanaian organizations who can help you further if you don't know, or if you are lacking something, doesn't matter. But you can always go to the Ghanaian organizations or to other professional organizations, the Dutch ones. But there are a lot of things to improve on our situation, and we need to make use of it, not to wait until it's turned bad, but even if it is better, we need to prevent, because from our home land, from Ghana, we are not used to prevent things. We wait till it happens and then we tackle it. So we need a different mindset. We already agreed at my workshop, we are here to stay. So from that point of view, if you are here to stay, you need to learn to know the system. If you don't know, ask the person who knows to show you the way. And we need also to change our mindset, not to wait till things go wrong, but to act if we think maybe it might go wrong, so that you're always on top of your game. That's the best way to be in control over yourself, your family, and also your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you that much. I do like to proceed to tell us a short summary of what happened at your workshop. Please welcome.
Well, we had a very, very interesting discussion. And one thing we all agreed was that young people or our children go through certain troubles, certain issues, and marriage factors that cause them to go through those difficulties. We have the family that's contributing to it. We also have the society at large, that's the community at large. And we deliberately ask people to put themselves in the position of young ones to act as, like, if they were kids, what would they expect their children to do differently? Or what are some of the things they saw growing up that did not augur well for their development? And we came up with very interesting points. I think I'll just summarize them in 3 main points. Now, they said there was no openness in the home when it comes to parents creating a conducive atmosphere where everybody, the children and their parents, can even sit together, talk about things freely. You know, that environment was lacking, and also leads to communication, effective communication. We just say things and that's it. We don't go beyond just saying it, don't do this, to explaining why they should not do it. So there's also the lack of effective communication. And this also links to, is linked to issue of trust. Because where there's no communication, there's no trust, there's no bond between parents and their children. So those are things. And also, we also talked about parents setting realistic goals for their children, and also commending them when there is a need. Even if they're not doing well, say in school, before you even tell them, like, you need to commend them, or sort of tell them, like, oh, you've done well, but next time you can do better. And that's setting realistic goals for your children, giving them a path when it's needed. So I think I'll just summarize this as a summary.
Okay. Thank you very much for that summary. Yes, well, we are thankful, just giving us a short summary of the point. And like always, we try to make sure that all the things that are discussed are not things that from here we just throw them away. Everything that was discussed, they'll take it along with them and they'll work on it so that if we are going to have our next workshop on this same topic, that means we are building on what we have discussed here today. So for those of you that are at the workshop, maybe your points were not mentioned at the summary, but that does not mean it's not something that was not recorded. So I want you to have this confidence that the points that you brought for things that we discussed in our coming next workshops, we will always take it along so that you know that every contribution that you have given is noted. And it's also our trust that some of the things that you have also heard, that you practice them. Some of the things that I see sometimes we lack in our workshops are the feedback. I would like to know for our next workshop when you come, certain things that you took from here and you practice, and let us know what are some of the results. So there's something that we want to, give you like a short assignment. That some of the things that you have heard here, see if you can implement some of them, so that at our next workshop you will come and tell us, hey Phyllis, this thing that you said is theoretical. It didn't work for me. Or you can say, we see, I thought you said this thing was better, but I opened up and now I'm exposed. Like nothing to know. The statement was uncovered, and the child called, everybody come and see my father. No, it's okay, I'll not preach. Anyway, but that's something that I think is very important. That it shouldn't be that we stick to all the things we know, but this program is organized. So that at least when we are living here wiser. We are living here with something that when we come, we did not even know before. And I think one of the things that I personally will be taking from here is that, are we here to stay or not? Because to me, that is a foundational decision. That the moment you start, I'm here to stay, then I need to explore the land. So that's something that I personally would take from here. Because I realized that I don't know Holland. I know Amsterdam, but I don't know the Netherlands. It's only yesterday that I was for the first time in Eindhoven, which is very sad. Thank you very much. But so that's something that I personally am taking from here. And I'd like you to also ask yourself, what am I taking from here and how am I going to practice it? So the next time we have our workshop like this, I'll tell you what I did with the word, we are here to stay. And I hope when we ask you also, what did you take and what are some of the things you practice, that you also come with some feedback. I think I would like to call upon Mr. Joe Lante for some closing remarks. Shall we please welcome Mr.
I think we are far behind time. I need not re-emphasize so much of what has been said. We have youth here, we have parents, and I think the next is for us to really find a way to rationalize all the issues that have been discussed here. The room is small, and for that matter, we know we were just told the number of Ghanaians here officially is a little over 20,000. But I think right from my time of stepping into the office of Sikaman, what we do is to multiply whatever official figure they give you by 3 for those that are invisible. So you can imagine.
I don't know the names are invisible.
You can imagine the number we have, but well, thank God the cameras are here, so I can assure you whatever we've discussed here, they will end up on the telly for the benefit of those who are not here. We are taking the information to them in the comfort of their homes. And so thank you for coming around, spending your time to come and share your thoughts. And we believe those out there, when eventually it gets to their turn to have the benefit of viewing this on the TVs, it will not become a waste, because we've agreed here that we really need to understand the system. We need to change our mindset. We also need to know that we live in an environment that is organized. And it is organized to the extent of they live more scientifically. Let me put it that way. I think we did so much manually the way we were brought up. This is, well, somebody said it is analog and digital. So we lived in analog, well, now we are here, it's a digital world, and we have to tune in, and thank God will take care of the rest if we also take care of, ourselves in the best of our abilities. Our tradition here is to show our appreciation for the speakers who made the time, the research they did, and what they've been able to share. So if I can have Phyllis and Akwesi here for so this our talking. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No flowers.
This is the way.
There's enough presentation.
This is how far we can.
Why not?
That is a flower.
Flower.